Teacher friends, student disrespect does not have to live and grow in your classroom. You do not have to accept it. You can address it. And in today's video, I am sharing a holistic approach to reducing student disrespect in your classroom. Coming up next. Hey teacher friends, Michelle Holiday here. I'm a behavior strategist and I help teachers, schools, districts, and youth organizations with strategies, tips, and systems on how to manage their classroom and their students with less stress and less struggle. And in today's video, we're talking about a holistic approach to addressing and reducing disrespect in your classroom. So here's the thing, okay? Disrespect is a big issue across America, across the world. And the fact that you think it would not show up in your classroom is a little bit surprising. Because at the end of the day, our students are really children and young people who represent our current society. So respect is a mountain that many of us will have to overcome. Here's the good news. There is an approach that you can use to address it in your classroom setting. Now, before you start telling me about, well, what about the parents and what about these people? I'm not talking to the parents right now. I'm talking to you, the teacher, because when the school day begins, it's just you and the students until the school day ends, and you have to deal with the disrespect. I'm going to take you step by step of how to approach disrespect in your classroom, whether you are in kindergarten, middle school, or high school. And you're going to have to repackage it and adjust it based on your class and school environment. Are you ready? Let's go. Step number one, you are the CEO of your classroom. So I need you to first decide, what does respect look like, sound like, feel like for you? Before you can inspect what you expect, you have to know, what do I expect from my students in the classroom setting? So it's how they address you, how they address each other. You want to look at the words they use, the tone of language, how they respond to different prompts or directions. Take a look at all of those things and say, okay, what does respect look like for me in my classroom? What do I consider as being respectful? Because it will not look the same in every classroom. Now, once you have an understanding of what respect looks like, sounds like, feels like, now it's time to communicate it to your students. And I invite you to be as creative as you possibly can. Use video, use color. Don't just tell them, these are the 10 rules to be respectful. You can start there, but you're going to have to reinforce that with other elements for it to stick in the mind of your students. Once you teach them what you want to see, go over it with them, have discussions about it, get an understanding what their mindset is, and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a respect challenge or a season of respect, or we're going to have a respect focus. Call it whatever you want to call it, and then attach a reinforcer to the behaviors. A reinforcer is simply an activity or a thing that helps to boost up or make it stronger in your classroom. So you may be a classroom who uses tangible things like treats or stickers. You may be a school that uses dojo points or point sheets, or you may be someone like me who's more into using verbal praise and activities. Whatever you choose to do, just make sure it's something that you can continue to do and maintain on your or the school's budget. Now you know what respect looks like, you've taught the students what it looks like, and you have a reinforcer. On the flip side, you're going to need a consequence. And I don't know how long you've been following me, but I really believe in classroom-based consequences first. So for me, kicking out a student is never the first option, unless we're talking about a safety issue or it's part of their plan. So I always look at what are some low-level consequences that I can use, like verbal redirection, correction, change of seat, one-on-one conversation, think sheet, things like that. Things that don't break the bank, but addresses the issue and may even make things a little uncomfortable for the student. But that's okay. They need to be uncomfortable with being disrespectful. So now that you have the reinforcer and the consequence, we're now going to launch this respect campaign. And every day you're going to review very quickly. This is not something that should take all day, hopefully 5 minutes or less. What does respect look like? Bring the students into it, let them talk about respect. And you're going to talk about it before an activity, after an activity, during the activity, We're going to talk a lot about respect, especially in the beginning, and then you're going to fade that out over time. When students demonstrate respect, they earn the reinforcer. When they don't, they earn the consequence. I challenge you to do this campaign for at least 15 school days without losing steam. As you begin to implement this, give them feedback when they're doing it well, but also give them feedback when they're not. I'm also a big believer in go-to responses, so you want to give them feedback, whether it's verbal praise, verbal correction, having a discussion that encourage or correct the behavior. Also consider having group reinforcers, small group reinforcers, and classroom-based reinforcers. The more reinforcers you have for the respect, the more effective it will be. So don't try to over-consequence the behavior. Really, you want to over-reinforce the behavior. And then over time, you're going to fade it out. What that means is decrease the frequency of the reinforcer or the intensity of the reinforcer so that it just becomes a regular flow for how you do class. If you implement these steps, you will see the respect begin to grow in your classroom. Period. So there you have it, a step-by-step implementation of a holistic approach of decreasing disrespect in your classroom. If you have questions, leave it in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.